Hi, everyone. This is Charles Hoskinson broadcasting live from warm, sunny Colorado. Always warm, always sunny. Sometimes Colorado. Today is February 25th, 2023. How about that? We survived all the way till February. It's been a long year. It's been a long month. It's been a long week. There's been a lot going on, a lot of moving pieces. We've been having executive workshops all this week, and next week we have the SIP 1694 workshop with some members of the community. Been traveling a bit, been working a bit. It's been just crazy. At the beginning of the year, I said, "Hey, I'm going to get in shape, lose a bunch of weight, meditate every day." And I was all fired up. In early January, I got COVID and knocked me out for 2 straight weeks, and I just looked terrible. And the brain fog stuck around until about mid-February, and now it's finally starting to recede a bit, and I'm feeling better. But gosh, it's been tough. It's been an interesting year, though. Cardano's on the rebound. A lot of good things are coming. You know, um, Community's doing some really cool, interesting things. Good to see TX Pipe keep evolving, Aiken keep evolving. A lot of really nifty, interesting NFT projects chipping away. It's all steam ahead on four things: HD, UTXO, peer to peer, Genesis, and finally 1694. And therein wraps up a long 7-year agenda. And then we get to look to the future towards more exciting things like whatever the hell you guys want. Input endorsers and side chains and mithril and recursive snarks and all these new magical things that basically are going to change the game. Hydra is still under construction. A lot of good news there. The meetings keep getting larger, and many more community members show up these days. I think the MLab guys were there. Sunday was there. We had Cardano Foundation there. They're co-developing Hydra these days. Obsidian was there. It's really good to see all of the community participation, and it's nice to see that the MBO is coming along as well. So a lot of good news on it. But overall, it's a much more mature project, and really having a lot of fun watching Cardano kind of grow up. We had the contingent staking debate not too long ago, and there over 2,000 people showed up on the Twitter space, and a lot of people had long arguments about various things. And it's less important about pro or against contingent staking. The very fact that so many people take it seriously and want to participate, want to say something, that's a very healthy sign. Ain't no sign of a bear market here in Cardano land. Everybody's pretty engaged these days. So there you go. Having a bit of fun with the media these days. A good friend of mine, Ross Calvin, tweeted out, "Hey, is it true you're buying CNN?" So I said, I can't confirm or deny it. Now, obviously, I'm not. For those of you in media land who are using ChatGPT to write your articles these days, no, I'm not buying CNN. Never made an offer. Come on, guys. I know nothing of traditional broadcast media. Um, we did sign an NDA and look into CoinDesk and certainly explored that. Unfortunately, because I signed an NDA, I can't really talk about where we're at and what's going on. If I had to bet, I don't think I'm going to acquire it. But we'll see where that process goes and how it evolves over time. Anytime when you have an acquisition, that's a very dynamic process, and there's always in the beginning disagreements about what is worth something. If somebody builds something, they tend to think the thing that they built is the most valuable thing in the world. And every now and then, somebody comes around and says, "Oh yeah, I agree. That's the most valuable thing in the world you've built right here. Here's a giant pile of money." But more often than not, what happens is that uh, people don't have that same belief. So after some time, perhaps you negotiate and haggle, and you get to a better term. So we'll see what occurs there. And there's certainly a long list of potential suitors, and I'm but one of many. And honestly, I'd like to build a coalition and bring some people together if we're going to do something like that. But I figure I'll give you a brief update. And unfortunately, I can't give anything more than that, and won't give anything more than that. And we'll just see where that goes. In terms of AI, got a lovely new book. I always love showing you guys books. It's The Business Case for AI. How about that? From Kavita. So Gana-san, she's a PhD researcher in artificial intelligence, and basically the book covers a lot of introductions. And so if you've never really thought too much about AI, the science, and how it relates to your business, what she does is she breaks it into a collection of parts. She's got 5 parts in the book: framing your AI thinking, get AI ideas flowing, prepare for AI, finding AI opportunities, and bring your AI to life. And it's a quick read. It's less than 300 pages, but if you're a business professional and you want to kind of understand what's the difference between fact and fiction in AI, the different types of AI and how they work in a business, what you can do, uh, that's a great book to pick up. And she's a pretty good author. In fact, I'll just give you a very good example of where we're using it. Small example, but how powerful it is. So I do these AMAs, I do videos, and believe it or not, apparently not everybody in my organization has time to watch them. Most don't actually. Um, but the thing is that every now and then I mention something that may be relevant to the organization inside the AMAs. And so how you'd normally do that is you'd have somebody listen to them and they would write a transcript, summarize it, and then say if there's anything that's relevant to a particular department, like I've announced a date or something like that, make sure they're informed. Well, now what we're doing is we're actually taking my videos and putting them in Otter AI. It creates a beautiful transcript, and then we put it into ChatGPT and say, hey, can you give us a summary? So it'll take 10,000 words and turn it to like a 300-word summary. And it's a fully automated pipeline. And then you can even have targeted keywords inside that process and say, hey, if I've mentioned something regulatory, if I've mentioned something about Lace Wallet or something about Midnight or whatever, make sure it gets to the relevant team. Totally automated, no human beings involved. That's pretty cool, isn't it? All right. So let's go ahead and get to your questions. Any comment on Ada Whale leaving Twitter? He leaves and comes and leaves and comes, and I'm not entirely sure why that pattern of behavior. The contingent staking debate was really not that serious, and everybody had an opportunity to participate and talk to this level. I mean, again, there's no SIP, there's no attempt to implement it, there's no urgency behind it. It's actually just a conversation. And I think, and maybe I'm old fashioned, but you don't take your bags and go home the minute that a conversation moves in a direction you don't like, or that you think that perhaps not as many people as you'd like agree with you. So I'm not exactly sure why or how the context. I suspect he'll be back. But it's really just a shame. Whenever people create good content or are good community members, they should stick around for the love of the community, not just because the monster of the week isn't in their favor. But it's whoever runs that account's prerogative to decide what to do with it. Unbanked banked yet? They're trying to do that, Uncle Gary. You asked what we want. I want multi-staking from one wallet. Is that coming? Yes, I want that too. The Address.You team is currently working on it, and I think that feature is slated for delivery in the next PI. So not this one coming to an end in April, but the next sprint beyond that. That's where it's at currently. Any plans to acquire more video game IP? Yeah, just bought Crystal Miner. You guys know Crystal Miner, right? Let's see here. Crystal Miner NES. Find it for you. Aha. Yeah, Crystal Mines. There we go. This is one of my brother's favorite games. Here, let me go share my screen real quick. Share screen. Whoa! There we go. Crystal Mines. Here we go. The old NES game. How about that? And actually, Wooly and I, we've talked about building it as a browser game in JavaScript and making it free to play and just one-click install. And it could be a little something that you waste time on while you're waiting for something on the internet to load. Charles, we've been discussing the idea of liquid non-custodial smart contracts. Do you know anything about that? Considering doing my own whiteboard video. Well, please do, because I have no idea the context. It's just words. You need to throw some more stuff on that. Is he buying CNN? No. Charles, do you practice regenerative agriculture? Absolutely. Trying to slowly restore the hayfields on my ranch. They're in a pretty bad state right now. Charles, how are you so smart and how do you learn? Also, how do you find so many good books? Well, your kind words aside, let me give you a good reference that'll help you get along. And as with anything in education, I always try to give a free, let's see here, always try to give a free resource. And so I shall give you this one. This is by Barbara Oakley. All right. And let me give you a little comment here from Coursera. So it's completely free. There we go. Learning how to learn. That's a good place to start. Got to regenerate that mushroom building first. Yeah, Steve, that was really sad and tragic. I lost probably $500,000 worth of hydroponics, plus I lost the storage building that was right next to it. We're still trying to figure it out. What's up with the Mammoth? They're working hard. They just closed a $130 million, $150 million round at a post-billion-dollar valuation. So Colossal is now a unicorn. How about that? And it looks like they're still on track for bringing back the Mammoth. How is the development of Lace Wallet going? We are going well. Just waiting for the damn thing to come out. SIP 30 integration. For some reason, it's causing them some hard times, but we're almost done with it, and it's the last mile. Charles, thoughts on injective versus surjective? When you put them together, you get a bijection. When are you selling meats on chain? That's a good question. Meats on chain, like bison meat, big thick bison sausage, juicy bison sausage on chain. Would you guys buy my meat if I put my meat on chain? Would it be like a big product? Does IOG have any plans for layer 2 solutions on Cardano? Are you exploring ZK rollups? I know you acquired Dr. Vinici Rao from Mina. A great pickup. Yeah, we're looking at pasta curves and BLS at the moment. Well, thank you, Read Out Loud Together, for sending me some love. I do appreciate it. It always makes me happy. Sunshine makes me happy. All right, let me just send this link out because all the kids like links. Sunshine. All right, what do we got here? Sweet dinosaurs. Next, I am buying for my ranch. I have a gas station I constructed there. I'm trying to get a Sinclair dinosaur for it. We'll see if we can pick it up. Total hypothetical. A giant-headed dog shows up at the office for SIP 1694 workshop. What do you do? Well, obviously, we'd take some pictures together or tackle you. Thoughts on the Coinbase layer on ETH? I knew they were building it because they tried to poach some of our people. They failed, but they revealed enough in the poaching attempt that they kind of spilled the beans. But it's good stuff, and we'll see if we can borrow anything from them. He would buy the meat. Thank you. Stella would buy my meat too. All right. Yeah, the meat is very tasty. It's grass-fed. This dude would buy a whole fucking bison. All right, well, how much would you buy that bison for? Because right now we sell the hunts for $3,500. So can you do better? You get about 1,200, 1,600 pounds of meat. Are you a Colorado Avalanche fan? Well, there's only one way to answer that. That's Saved by Wah! Yeah, Forsberg, Wah, Sakic. Oh, that's such a good team. They're a great team. I love the Avs. It's one of the few sports I still watch. One collaboration with David Schwartz. I like David Schwartz. He's a good guy, really smart dude, and he's got a nice background. And he's a cryptographer, and he's sufficiently edgy that he actually doesn't succumb to corporatitis. He actually is a real person, and he has real opinions, and he's not afraid to share those real person opinions, and that's a good thing. Just right now in the doghouse with that community for reasons no one can fully understand. Charles, will we see Laos in 2023? No, you will see the paper, but not the SIPs and not the final design, because the community has to ratify that. And to ratify that, you need to pass 1694 or something like that. It's too dramatic of a change. It changes the reward mechanism. It changes fundamental security assumptions in the system. It has a strong off-chain component. There's going to be a lot more stake pool operators, and they operate slightly differently, and they do different things. IO doesn't have the right to go and change that social contract. Only you guys do. So it's a prerequisite to get 1694 out and have a long time of discussion. What's the state of midnight? It's going well. Resting upon 3 pillars. How much do you meditate per day? I try for about 20 to 45 minutes, depending upon the day. Haven't done so lately. What do you think about Bill Gates injecting RNA vaccines into livestock? I think Bill Gates needs to stay completely out of our food system. It's very uncomfortable that he's been going around buying land and animals, and he's trying to feed us all insects. I'm not so happy about that. What's your favorite cut of meat? I like the porterhouse. Reading John Green's book right now. Great resource for us non-devs. Well, Ryan, if you're really reading it and going through it, one thing that you could do to really help out John would be each chapter, keep notes, put them together in a PDF or something like that, and email John. We have to all work together to make this book great. What are your thoughts on ordinals, Charles? Well, that's an odd thing. Ordinals are a mathematical object. They come up when we talk about you should release Crystal Mines as a free NFT to play inside your wallet. Great onboarding opportunity. Oh, yeah. They come up when you talk about cardinality and infinite sets and these types of things. Unless there's a different ordinals that I don't know of. Do you guys know about ordinals? Are we doing ordinals? Huh. Okay. Plutus is too difficult. It will never work. Well, do you guys want to talk about Plutus? Do you guys really want to talk about Plutus? Do you want to have the Plutus conversation? Well, fuck it. Let's have the Plutus conversation. Let me just open up my whiteboard here. Okay, my Microsoft whiteboard is configuring, and I got to change my background. What are we going to do here? Well, I'm going to get a little bit of rainbow pen right there. Yeah, nice little rainbow pen, and I'm going to enhance my ink shapes, and I'm going to format my background, put a little square grid on that. Ooh, yeah, that's nice. Okay. So let's talk about it. Share screen. Hold on to your hats. Hold on to your butts. All right, let's open this shit up. And here we go. All right, so the question is, Plutus is too difficult. Plutus evil, Plutus hard, must go other language. Okay. So back in the day in 2017, we had this idea, and I wrote it in the paper, and I called it Cardano SL. I may have even written this paper, Why Cardano, in 2016. I'm not sure. It was a long time ago, and I'm getting old and fat. All right, so Cardano SL, and I also introduced this concept of Cardano CL. So back in the day, what I wanted to do was have an ultra-fast, secure, and somewhat limited settlement system. So that would be multi-asset. So we invented a new accounting model for that called extended UTXO. And we also created the Cardano native asset standard. And we did some research into two different programming languages. One was Plutus and the other one was Marlow. So the idea behind extended UTXO was that this gave us the ability to go off chain, on chain really quickly and have good proof properties. We also thought about things like determinism, and we thought about things like parallelism. So we really wanted to have a high degree of stuff happening all at the same time. Native assets, that was inspired from color coins. That was an old Bitcoin concept. And Plutus and Marlow I always imagined as the asset transfer language. So basically something that would stick around and allow you to move assets around. And Plutus was kind of like this connecting tissue. So the idea is that Plutus would allow you to build all the bridges so that you could connect to much more complicated and expressive systems in the layer 2 sidechain. Okay. So here's what happened. Fast forward to 2023, we learned actually how to make Plutus general purpose and sufficiently expressive that you could actually match pretty closely the EVM and Solidity. Frustratingly closely, but there's still some issues here and there. Okay, well, this is evolving quite a bit, and it is now possible to build stuff on Cardano that would be equivalent to what people built on Ethereum. Well, the thing is that all the innovations happening over here in the layer 2, look at Coinbase upgrading Ethereum, look at Polygon, and Seba from DC Spark very accurately pointed out that it's much more exciting this side because you have infinite possibilities. When you look at the CL model, here you want to have some sort of fast binding layer that provides security to everybody. So that's fast. And then all this is where you do your experimentation. So one of the strategies we've been looking at is, if you think about Plutus, you have Plutus, the surface language, and that looks a lot like Haskell. And you have Plutus core. That's system F omega with some type magic. Okay, and so your surface lang, that looks a lot like Haskell, and that compiles to core. So one of the things we've been thinking about is, can we highly optimize core and the compilation tooling, but then go ahead and promote the creation of lots of good surface languages. So you have Plutus core, and then you'll have languages like, I think it's Akin is one, and you have all these other languages. Marlow is another one. Okay. And basically, these are built around for developer accessibility. Or bespoke domains. Okay. Now, these could be community-led and financed through grant programs, or small, highly incentivized teams. And then the core can be in the engine room and basically work on making this more efficient. Now, there's precedent for this model, and that precedent comes from Java. So if you look at Java, back in the old days, it was the surface language. Everybody knew it, everybody used it. What's happened is they do a lot more work these days on the Java virtual machine, and instead you have a bunch of languages that compile to it, like Scala and Kotlin. Then you have Cloture, you have Julia, and all these other languages that compile to it. And they have big ecosystems. They do lots of things. And the JVM effectively is just kind of the back end. And these are much more developer friendly and user friendly than anything in the Java syntax. So it may be the case that this is a superior model. What I wanted to do back in the day is I always imagined that what was going to happen is that we'd build this great layer. And then on the smart contracting side, we had this concept of the island, the ocean, the pond. And we had something called the K framework. And the concept there is that if you got the formal semantics of a language in K, that through a process called semantics-based compilation, K would be able to actually build auto-magically all of your tooling to connect your language to the core. And then you'd also get your formal methods and your debugger and interpreters and basically everything you'd ever want in a framework. And so we put millions and millions of dollars into exploring this. This was done out of University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign by Grigory Rochu. And we learned a lot. We even created something called Yella, and we thought about even deploying Yella as a specific sidechain with this Cardano SL model, but we never could get it to work at a level that would make sense for Cardano in this generation. And it makes me sad because that was actually my favorite approach, and I felt that gave everybody what they wanted because it was very simple. You just do a K semantics for any programming language, and then suddenly you auto-magically support that language. So anyway, Marlow is evolving quite nicely. Next month hits mainnet. Plutus it's in its second version right now, and people are really starting to dig into it, and the tooling is getting dramatically better. You guys really know the native asset model and extended UTXO model pretty well, so we're starting to see a lot of good community built around core. And what I imagine is going to happen is the surface lang and core is really going to become the formal methods path over time for that, plus the binding infrastructure, which is what we really wanted it to be. Okay, so Hydra, the sidechain smart contracts, these types of things. And then what needs to happen is that we need to get these high accessibility surface languages, which developers really enjoy, and get those supported, meaning get some grants there. And we certainly can put some in, and the MBO can put some in, and Catalyst can continue to put some in, and the foundation can put some in, like the foundation's been funding Aiken. And I think that's how we kind of get where we need to go in terms of developer accessibility. So I agree that Plutus can be too difficult for a class of people, especially when it has certain restrictions. But you have to understand that there's some philosophical reasons why people do that. And everything changes very quickly. And I think we're starting to converge to a development model that's working for everybody. It's going to take a little bit more time. Uh-oh, did I just leak something? Whoopsie. No, I think that was in the Cardano 360. That's what they told me in the PI planning, that the mainnet contracts can run now on mainnet. That's why they try not to tell me anything, because sometimes I leak stuff. See, this guy, he's sports Aiken. I'm glad that there's people around that do that. Do you see what Midjourney AI can do? What's your opinion, Charles? Generative AI is a really interesting topic, and it's super transformative for business. For those of you who don't know, generative AI is just kind of basically a thing that gives you the ability to generate pictures, music, video, generate text. So what you do is you'd say something like, okay, I want you to write me a song. Okay. And it'll go write you a song. And actually, we can do a demo right now. Let's see if we can get away with it. I think ChatGPT can only do text right now, but Midjourney can do more. So let me go to ChatGPT, Google Chat. No, not the Google Chat. OpenAI, ChatGPT. Try ChatGPT. Checking your browser. Yeah, and I have a subscription for ChatGPT Plus. All right, so for those of you who haven't done this before, I think everybody in the world has because it's so cool, but you never know, there might be one or two people who haven't. So let's go over here to ChatGPT. So I can say something like, "Write me a song about a cat in the style of Nine Inch Nails, Closer." And it actually writes you a song. Chorus, meow, meow, meow. I want to claw like a cat. Meow, 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 meow. I want to scratch you till you bleed. The cat is sly. It's quick and smart. It plays with you. So this is generative AI. So basically, it's generating for you a song. Now, within the next 3 to 5 years, this is going to get exponentially better. And what's going to happen is that the system will be integrated with an image generation system, a vocal generation system, a full music generation system, and a video generation system. So, what you'd be able to do is take this as a pipe and put it into basically a music generator, and it actually generate the accompanying music for this, and then into a voice generator, and you'd say, okay, sing this song about "Cat in the Style of Nine Inch Nails Closer" with William Shatner's voice, and it'll come out and it'll sound like William Shatner. Say, okay, and then make the accompanying music video for this, and then make some cover art with, Mid Journey, and then upload to YouTube. And boom, within 2 minutes, you have basically something that would be like a multi-million person parody hit. That's pretty cool. So that is changing everything because nobody knows how to handle it. I mean, I have a whole song now. In fact, I'll copy and paste it for you guys into the chat log. And there we go. Just so you guys can see, yes, you know, this was generated by an artificial intelligence. Isn't that cool? And that's generative AI in a nutshell. I think it is not only going to change everything, I think it is actually has profound intellectual property considerations. And there's a really nice world of connecting NFTs to generative AI. So basically, what happens is every time you generate something, you generate a companion NFT, and it has embedded within it the timestamp, the intellectual property, the authorship of who owns it, these types of things, because basically we really need to do that. You have a poem of sorts, not a song with a hook. Generate the hook. There we go. Current state of NEPA piles. NEPA piles are done. People have implemented them. The protocol's finished. It works. There's no reason for NEPA piles on Cardano because it's a proof of stake system, but anybody who's proof of work, you should use them. Charles, Conclave update coming soon. Super excited, as you can imagine. We're looking into combining Conclave with JED because as JED grows, it's going to have a huge boost in TVL, and it's going to have a lot of staking under it. And so, if you could connect JED in a way where you basically have a hook for small stake pool operators to plug into, and they, through a federation, basically can benefit from that. I think that JED could become one of the largest decentralizers of the stake pool network. So we'll look into that. You look like you feel better. Well, I do feel a little bit better. Opinion on Mid Journey lawsuit. I haven't heard about the lawsuit yet. I'll look into it. You know, what's interesting when we talk about AI for people, There's a AI company called Replica. I don't know if you guys have ever seen Replica, but basically they build these AI companions and people pay money to have a friend who's AI. And for a long time, they advertised it as, hey, you can have this as basically a boyfriend or a girlfriend replacement. And so there were sexual encounters with Replica. And they just woke up one day and said, oh, we're just going to turn that capability off. And people were so traumatized by turning off Replica's intimacy module that some people were thinking about committing suicide or fell into crippling depressions, all kinds of things. And it just really goes to show you what the future looks like. It's, people can build relationships with pretty much anything, a car, a stuffed animal, or in this case, an AI. And these AIs, they're right at that uncanny valley of sophistication. They're not quite passing the Turing test, but they're getting to a point where they're going to within the next 3 to 5 years. So millions, if not hundreds of millions of people are going to have AI companions over the next 10 years or 20 years. And again, this is a huge marketplace because you can actually take the parameterization, the design of them, turn them into an NFT, and then people can own that. So they can't suddenly wake up and have a company kill their girlfriend effectively. I love you, Charles. Well, I love you too in a completely heterosexual way. Any new Africa deals? Well, we did the Possessia investment, and we're getting ready to set up some really cool stuff in Kenya. We've been working pretty hard at trying to get some things going. The challenge is that there's a lot of business you can do, but there's not a lot of profitable business, or it takes a long time to do things. But the Ethiopia deal has good legs behind it. We have students entering the system. We should be at about 1 million students by the end of the year and all 5 million by the end of next year. Then the question is, can it be upgraded to become a national ID system? And under what terms does that make sense? So we're chipping away at that. What's your opinion of Jordan Peterson's alternative plan for to the WEF? Something needs to be done. The last time I went to the WEF, I was just sickened. I go there and it was one gigantic party in Davos of look how much money and power we have. So you go and you have John Kerry and you have Hillary Clinton and you have all these people, big powerful people there, Marissa Mayer, et cetera, et cetera. And they say, "Oh, we know the world. We got it all figured out. Go eat some grasshoppers, and ESG this and ESG that." And the hotel I stayed at, every 15 minutes, a helicopter would land carrying some VIP. If you're landing a private jet, you have to wait to land because so many people are landing. They're private jets there to then talk about global warming. It's just one big bastion of hypocrisy, and I did not like it at all. It was horrifically expensive. It cost like $10,000 a day to rent a decent hotel and get all your stuff set up, and then the tickets are horrendously expensive, and it's a big class system. And the badges are different colors based upon what areas you have access to, and if you're not one of the anointed masses, you have to spend like $100,000 to get in. And it's just a big popularity contest with Klaus Schwab and the rest of the gang. I know the CF goes every year and they rent a pavilion out, but I don't have anything to do with it. At least makes sense for them because they're a Swiss-based entity and they have a lot of deep business connections in Switzerland. And if you're there, going to Davos is it's like having if there was a giant governance conference in Denver, Colorado. Okay, I'd go to it because it's like 20-minute drive for me. But if I had to go out of my way, then no, I don't think that makes any sense at all. And I don't like Davos. And I think that Jordan is right to try to create some alternatives. Frankly, why don't we do an online conference? Why don't we create a metaverse conference? And instead of having everybody go to a place, have the whole world show up and make it free to attend. If we're going to make a conference to help everybody in the world decide where we want to take the world, shouldn't that conference by its design be as open as possible? Midnight will be in line with cryptocurrencies when it's launched. So don't worry about that. There's a plan for how to do that step by step. Charles, are you still friends with Alex? Which Alex? Alex Chirpinoy? There's hundreds of Alexes. You got to give me a last name. Joe Rogan show. I'm getting there, guys. It's just there's a lot of things you got to do before the Rogan. So it was Rogan after Gogan, but we're working on it. We're pushing in that direction. I want to have a good conversation, one that stands the test of time. When do we get smart contracts? 2021. We already got them. You need to pay more attention, man. Shit's happening. Yeah, exactly. World conference, like everybody can attend. Well, why is Davos an elite thing? If you want to make it elite, you allow everybody to attend, but then you have permission circles for world leaders to communicate. And by the way, doesn't that save the environment? No private jets have to go anywhere. No $10,000 a night tickets. These types of things. Just put that out there. Or we could continue going there and have people eat crickets. Dun dun dun. Mm-hmm. Do you like ice cream? Yes, I do. And I've eaten a lot of ice cream throughout the years. That's why I'm fat. I'm a chunky monkey, chunky monkey. How many businesses are you hiding your fortune in? It's always so weird. Like you do business, make money, and that's hiding assets. It's like, would you rather me just not make jobs? So it'd be a lot easier for me to just give it all Goldman Sachs and be like, go invest all that, and I'll just live on my ranch and live off the interest. I have businesses. I build things. I raise bison. I'm setting up a Scottish restaurant called Nessie's. I'm setting up a game development company. Got my clinic in Gillette, Wyoming. And every one of these, what do? They create jobs. We hire people, and those people, they get health insurance and they get a 401k and they actually get wages substantially higher than most of the areas that we hire them from. One of the things that you have to do if you ever stumble upon wealth is you have a moral obligation to build stuff. You have an obligation to construct things. You have an obligation to improve structures you already own. You have an obligation to set up businesses. That wealth is power, and you have to deploy it for the good of your community. So Gillette, Wyoming is a great example of that. I wanted to do anti-aging and longevity and regenerative medicine. I wanted to do a really cool medical venture. So I call people around. We go over the Buck Institute, and they say, "Well, this is what you need to do." And I read Dave Sinclair's book, and I read Dave Asprey's book, and then we got Peter Attia's stuff coming out here in March. And, so I look at all these, I watch the podcasts, and then everybody tells me, okay, well, you should set it up in Boulder, Colorado, or you should set it up in Denver or a major population center because you have a large patient base. And I say, well, why can't I set up my clinic, my anti-aging clinic in Gillette, Wyoming? And they laughed at me. They said, you'll never get doctors. There's not enough people there, and everybody's backward. Literally, this is like scientists telling me this. Stereotyping, those unwashed masses in the Midwest. It's just the arrogance and the elitism. I say, if I go build a clinical center of excellence in a place like Boulder or Denver, it competes with the clinical centers of excellence that are already there. Plenty of people already have good health care. They get it because of money. Okay? I go build it in Gillette. Even if you have money in Gillette, you still get shit health care. For every 3 doctors they need, they only have 1 doctor. And it's the suicide capital of the United States. I was visiting an event at a high school there in Gillette, and while walking through the high school, there were 3 different signs, 3, saying, please don't kill yourself, for kids, because of how bad it is there. Nutrition's terrible. There's an obesity problem, a cancer problem, a suicide problem. It is a healthcare desert. So even just doing a little bit dramatically changes the lives of 75,000 people. But you listen to the mentality of a lot of these people floating around, and they say, oh, well, don't do that because you'll never make any money, or don't do that because it's not the best way to launch. But what about the dignity of human lives? So you got the money, you got to go build stuff. Now, it wasn't cheap. Where we built the clinic out in Gillette, we bought this old restaurant. It was called the Skyline Grill. It was 4,000 square feet, and we upgraded it to 10,000 square feet. It wasn't really supposed to do that, but we figured out a way to make it happen and make it beautiful. And I put in terrazzo floors, and nobody in the state of Wyoming could do that. So we had to get somebody to come on down and do it. We put in coffered ceilings, put beautiful statues and artwork, and it's just a stunning facility. Soundproofed all the exam rooms. We thought about patient flow really carefully. So the nurse stations were put in a way where, they're very, very easy for people to get around, widen the hallways a bit so it's easy to get patients around. Really nice lighting, really nice acoustical properties. It's an incredible place to work just for primary care. Then we have 2 nice procedure rooms. But then what happened is, once we have that foundation, well, by the way, we had to dig a sewer out there. Took 18 months to dig the goddamn sewer out. And actually at the lowest gradient, we had to dig down 28 feet. And OSHA has a regulation that when you dig down a foot, you have to dig 2 feet across for your channel. So we had a 56-foot by 28-foot channel. For you guys who live in metric land, that's almost 18 meters by 8 meters. Think about that. That's a huge channel, 3 trench boxes inside of it to get a damn sewer line across 4 different properties, easements on 4 different properties. But we did it to get a sewer line, and we put geothermal in because I'm a big fan of sustainability. We dug 19 geothermal wells. No one had ever done that in all of Campbell County. So we created a lot of jobs and, put a lot of money into it. But, here's the end result of it is that now that we're taking care of patients, we have a temporary clinic that we've set up while we're finishing out the main clinic site. We already have 2,000 patients in the panel, get hundreds of calls every week. And we've already dramatically had an impact on the healthcare in Campbell County. And we haven't even gotten started yet. We don't have the full CLIA approved lab running yet. We don't have the pharmacy running yet. It's a compounding pharmacy. We're still waiting on some stuff for the imaging center because we're bringing the first 3 Tesla MRI in that entire area, first 256 slice CAT scan, I think the entire state of Wyoming. Got a PET module, got a DEXA scan that we're bringing in, got a SPECT scan so we can do a lot of brain studies for blood flow. All of these things completely absent. In fact, we are the very first entity in the state of Wyoming to actually buy a MaxStim. And you say, what the heck is a MaxStim, Charles? Well, let me show you. So MaxStim therapy, super cool device. And it blows my mind that the vast majority of doctors don't use these things or don't know anything about it. So basically, it's a transcranial magnetic stimulation device. And let me show you what it looks like. Let's see, we're on the innovative neuromodulation. I'll be under products. Here we go. Yeah, so we have the Horizon Performance, and we're just getting trained on it right now. So it's an FDA cleared device, and basically it uses magnetic stimulation on a person who has depression, and you actually get it's Medicare approved after 2 failed therapy lines. So if they've taken SSRIs, so antidepressants, and they haven't worked, you can use this device, and about a third of the time, 33% of the time, it cures their depression. Third of the time, it actually makes it better. Third of the time, it doesn't work at all. It's actually dramatically better than taking prescription drugs. And when it cures it usually permanently. And you only need 36 treatments over, I think, a 90-day period. And just magnetic reset of your brain. How about that? Like 100 plus papers, placebo-controlled clinical trials that come through. So we bought it, training people in the area on how to use it. Why? Because again, suicide and depression capital of Wyoming, which is one of the highest rates in the entire nation, and there aren't any pediatric psychiatrists there. There aren't any people that actually treat these things, despite the fact they have so much PTSD and dependency and addiction and other problems, domestic violence, et cetera, et cetera. So we build this thing, and then we find this device and we bring it in. We find another device. It's actually a super cool device. It scans your whole body for moles, and it takes 10 seconds to do. You just in your underwear, and like the whole body, and puts them all in and uses AI and lets you know if there's a mole that looks cancerous or not. State-of-the-art equipment that you would expect to see at Lanzerhofer, Mayo, or at Johns Hopkins, not at Gillette, Wyoming. Because I made money, I was able to build something like that and bring something like that to a community. Now, maybe we make a profit, maybe we don't make a profit. That's my business of figuring out if we can make those economics work or not. But what it does do is it makes my community better. And that's how it should be. There's this bizarre, perverse socialist mentality that's infected people, that when they look at people who are of means, they say they are the enemy and their mere presence in society is offensive, and we have to take everything from them to give to a government, which, by the way, when a train derails, they don't show up, but then they go overseas to give that money to somebody else. I'm sorry. If you think the U.S. government is here to protect you or take care of you, or it's a good decider of where to invest money and help you out, you're not thinking clearly. We have to take care of ourselves. We have to take care of our communities, and that's the job, and that's what we're supposed to do. And that's what I'm doing. So in Wheatland, building a restaurant because there aren't any good ones. Trying to create a new ranching model that's profitable so the ranches don't go out of business and Bill Gates will go and buy them and force us to eat crickets. And Gillette trying to reinvent healthcare and do different things that cure stuff. That's one of our mission statements at the clinic there, curative medicine. Why? Because I'm getting real tired of everything saying you should take a pill for the rest of your life. And then in the cryptocurrency space, we try to reinvent the nature of money and put you in charge of your identity and put you in charge of your money. Now, these aren't controversy-free things. If you notice, Cointelegraph just released their top 100 most influential people. They put number 26 as the fossil hard fork. Certainly, and I'm left off. So obviously, while you do this type of stuff, pisses people off. They write books. They say horrible things. People have never met you think you're the worst human being alive, and every single thing you do is evil or a scam. But you don't do it for them. You don't do it for the fame. You do it because it's the right thing to do. That's what character is all about. Yeah, it was the Rick Sanchez burp. Can I have a beer with you at your restaurant when Nessie's is open? Sure as hell, come on up. And if I'm there, sure. By the way, we are going to have the largest whiskey bar in the state of Wyoming because that's the right thing to do. Can you do an AMA with Tamara Hassan? She seems pretty cool to conversate with. Absolutely is, and I'm trying to get her to come in. I wanted to do a show with her. We were going to call it Chash and Ginger Snaps. Any positions open for a psychiatrist? Alex, 100%. Go ahead and send me an email if you are a licensed psychiatrist. We have been looking like crazy for one because, we're exploring there's my email address. We're exploring ketamine therapies. It looks like they're going to reschedule MDMA at some point here. We obviously have transcranial magnetic stimulation. We're looking at photobiomodulation for the treatment of TBIs, which a lot of mental illness is connected to trauma. So we're looking at all those things, but obviously we'd also like to layer traditional psychology in, so CBT, ACT, and standard modalities, but 100%. You said your aim was to create the best proof of stake the world's ever seen, and we did. We 100% did. Promises made, promises delivered. Ouroboros, bar none, is the best proof of stake. It has the best theoretical properties, the highest level of security. It has an organic way of becoming more decentralized over time. It's asynchronous with the Genesis model. It bootstraps from Genesis. It's got one of the largest set of validators around. It's amazing. And with the upgraded input endorsers, the highest throughput ever seen. Meanwhile, your staking model is liquid and custodial, non-custodial, meaning no one controls it. You control it. You don't tell me that that's not the best model. It absolutely is. We succeeded. We wrote paper after paper, and I'm real proud. Charles, will Nessie serve haggis? Absolutely, and blood pudding. You must have both. Charles, I started Aiken. I would love to talk to you about it. Yeah, just reach out to us. We're definitely going to try to create some grant programs for it. Do Peter Attia and David Sinclair have different perspectives on how health should be described, vitality versus longevity? Can't have a cake and eat it too. Would you be open to working with Rejuve Biotech? Yeah, I have no problem working with any of these people, and I don't think they have different perspectives. I think the issue is translation of the work that they're doing to clinical trials that you can actually use on the patient. That is the rate limiter. So it's great. You can have this epigenetic notion of aging and information notion of aging, and you show how you can make a mouse old and make a mouse young again, and they're twins, and that's just very convincing science. But the minute it touches you or me, it touches us humans, you need FDA approval. You need to run clinical trials. And so that's why you start with the primary care clinic first, and you build out a center of excellence, and you have an image center and a very sophisticated laboratory that can do genomic sequencing and all these other things, because you're verticalized to clinical trial. And you can take best available research, and then you can run placebo-controlled phase 3 clinical trials, double-blind trials, and you can run them. And my cost, for example, doing an MRI once everything is all set up is like $40. Costs $1,200 to do an MRI if you're buying at retail. But I can do that for that price point for research because, I have the techs, I have the machine. It's the same for running a lab. It costs me like 25 cents for a CBC. If I was doing that retail, it's like $100. It's expensive stuff. Full genome sequence is still a little expensive. It's like $300. It used to cost $1 billion to sequence a full human genome, and that price keeps going down. So verticalizing that stuff is great. And then when you do your clinical research, not only can you get really good data sets about the primary concern, you could actually start digging into the genetic reasons why things were either less or more effective. For example, let's say we want to replicate some of the studies with resveratrol or NAD or any of these things. Okay, great. So we run it, and there's something we're looking for. But, we could find out if a person expresses a really particularly positive outcome, maybe they have a specific gene or there's a specific genetic expression. I can look into that because I have the full genome data and I can use AI to basically just go through all of that in a matter of a day and come back with an answer about any of the patterns that they found. Another thing we're very interested in doing is bringing stuff that's on the fringe that really does work, like photobiomodulation and transcranial magnetic stimulation and hyperbarics into medicine. Because when you bring those things in, you have decades, if not centuries, of good clinical evidence, but for whatever reason, it's been abandoned or ignored by modern medicine, and you potentially can cure stuff or at least dramatically reduce the effects of certain things. Like, I can't for the life of me understand why hyperbarics were not used with COVID treatment. You get patients and they're having really a huge difficulty getting their pulse ox up. They're just about to get to a point where you have to put them on a ventilator. Why not treat them with hyperbarics? Every person I've seen that's gone down that road, it's been very good for them. Or ozone therapy is another example. They used to use that to treat Ebola. Did you guys know that? Yeah, you doctors listening right now, let me show you a little something. I got a paper for you. Ozone Ebola treatment. Yeah, how about this? Paper that crossed my desk not too long ago. Ozone and oxidation therapies is a solution to the emerging crisis in infectious disease management, a review of current knowledge and experience. How about that? Medicine faces a crisis of emerging superbugs, lethal viruses, and stealth pathogens such as tick-borne infection. Thousands are dying worldwide of once treatable diseases. Ozone therapy, extensively studied, may be a valuable adjuvant or standalone therapy. Ebola again ravages Africa. And rah, rah, rah. And by the way, they used it on Ebola patients. So I will post a link to that. How about that? Why don't people use it? Because it's cheap and they haven't been able to find a way to patent it and the pill on it yet. Boom. Oh, yeah, you're not going to go to that link. Just Google the ozone and oxidation therapies. Yeah, exactly. Allopathic medicine is not concerned with a cure. It's not profitable as a symptom management, coming from a 20-year expert. You're 100% right. And again, you just bark and bark and bark. Caravan's moving on there, Nom. Guy's a classic narcissist. Okay? You just name call. Why? Because you hate yourself. That's why. Still not completely healthy after COVID. Almost there. Going to start working out again here in a bit. I was on a really good regimen and it just destroyed me. This last time I got, I was knocked out for 2 weeks. Just shortness of breath, the fatigue, and the mental side was the worst. Every year, we're just going to get it from here on out. Love listening to you. Great voice. Love listening to you. Great voice. Great opinions. Come on, man. Work on the syntax. Solid gold. Thanks, my man. I've been trying to do my best Sam Elliott. You have to lower your voice by an octave. So you got to talk like this. And you also have to slow it down a bit. As a cowboy out there said. See, got to slow it down. Should I take some voice coach? So vaccines doesn't work. It's interesting because I took the Pfizer vaccines, both of them, the double boost, and I got COVID like 4 times in the last 3 years. I travel a lot. I'm in densely packed rooms. I'm on planes all the time, shaking hands all the time. It's really impossible not to get it. You can wear a fucking bunny suit with a mask. And they told me, oh, if you take it, you won't get it. And if you do get it, it'll be mild. And none of that was true. But of course, we can't talk about that, because if you express that opinion, even if you're a medical doctor, you can be a professor at Stanford or Harvard, you'll get deplatformed. So can't comment on that, unfortunately. Again, but we live in a free society. Any research you found on LSD and depression? The really big research for the therapeutic use of psychedelics for depression is out of Johns Hopkins, and they're using it for psilocybin trials. That's Roland Griffith's research that's being done. Not sure about LSD. Guy who discovered it was a Swiss chemist, and he took a heroic dose and rode his bike home, and he was just sitting there and the bike was moving. He went a little crazy. Really cool guy, though. Do you regret taking the COVID vaccine? Well, I wanted to take the Novavax vaccine because I thought that was the safest and a really good vaccine. It's based on the old hepatitis B design, the nanoparticle design. So what they do is they take moth DNA and they use it, moth cells, and they use it to make the spike protein, and they connect the spike protein to these nanoparticles, and they give that with an adjuvant, and it creates an immune response. There's no RNA, there's no DNA, there's no interaction with these things. It's just a foreign body like COVID would be, and then your body creates an immune response to it. All the clinical research showed that Novavax was great, but they kept it off the market. The FDA kept it off the market for years, and everybody had to take these RNA vaccines. Now I'm seeing papers out that for some people, the RNA that's supposed to stay only in where they've injected it is now traveling throughout your whole body. It's in breast milk and the liver, other places. And they found it in patients a month later, post-vaccination. It shouldn't be there. So either the body's having trouble clearing it or it's making more of it than it should. So a lot of stuff like that. And I wish there was real medical research going on. If I'm a vaccine manufacturer and I say my vaccine can't do X, and then it does X, the first thing you would do is you would start researching and studying. Instead, the answer is the science is settled, shut the fuck up, get in the corner. We're not allowed to run any more research, and any person who doubts us is evil and must be deplatformed and is a vaccine denier. On average, before COVID, it took 15 years for a vaccine to hit market. The Ebola vaccine was one of the newest, and it was 2009 when it came out. And that was a adenoviral vector. They started working on that in the mid-90s, just as an example. Okay, so it takes a long time, and there's numerous levels of review and safety protocols, and they look at everything. Here, they said, well, we ran one clinical trial over a multi-month period. The science is settled. No additional research is required. And any person who says otherwise, they must lose their medical license and be removed from society. This is not science. This is not medicine. This is not how we've ever done medicine in the history of medicine. And I'd love for the people who tell you that that's okay to point to a period of time where that was the case. In the 1970s, they bungled the swine flu vaccines. And people was it Epstein-Barr? And they had to apologize, and there was big settlements and all these things. That was much smaller than what happened here. So I have very, very serious concerns about this. I think that the way that everything's been handled is the opposite of building public trust, the opposite of science, and ultimately has been catastrophically harmful to everything from government relations to trusting public health to the moral duty that physicians have to do no harm to their patients. And there will be a reckoning from this at some point when more ethical people prevail. What's so sad, too, is that mRNA vaccines had nothing to do with respiratory viruses. If you look at Moderna, BioNTech, or any of these companies that were working on these things, for years, they'd show up at the universities, they'd show up at the conferences, and they'd say, we are making these things for cancer. Okay, we take your cancer tumor and we do some genetic magic and we figure out how to create an immune response to your cancer. So it was basically a cancer vaccine for immunotherapy. And where these things work, they work magic and they cure incurable cancers. And they're wildly profitable. It's no coincidence that the people who founded these companies were not just regular vaccine people. They were oncologists, like MD PhDs who had spent years in cancer research. And they just so happen to know that the technology, because of the way it worked, could be applied to potentially rapidly making a respiratory virus vaccine. But uh, generally speaking, the Novavax platform was far more orthodox and sensible. These nanoparticles, it's one and done, or two and done, and it creates a very strong immune response. You're not tinkering with things. You're not using new things. We'd never before injected people with RNA vaccines prior to this. The adenoviral vector was used in the Ebola vaccine. It's just rare, and that was never mass distributed to people. Very few of us live in Ebola zones, and it just makes me sad. Because where do we go from here? Half or more of America not only thinks they've been lied to, there probably have been, that they will never trust a public health department again. So what do we do with the next pandemic? And then the mask policy, all these meta-analyses come out, 600,000 plus people, and they say, hey, the masks actually don't really do much for you. Oh, but they do. Shut up. The science is settled. Does it really make sense? I took a PPE class years ago when I still wanted to be a doctor. And it was a 4-week thing, and they show you all the different personal protective equipment, the P-wrap, and how to wear an N95 and put on a face shield and a gown and the double gloves, and you go through the whole thing. And the problem with actually good personal protective equipment that you'd wear in a facility is that you have to wear it, like never not take it off, and you have to go through a sterilization thing or some sort of cleansing as you leave the facility. There are some people during the height of COVID, doctors working in ICUs, who actually put catheters in because it was so cumbersome to go to the bathroom and come back and take the personal protective gear on and off. And you have to be 100% right 100% of the time. You can't slip up once. So our mask policy was that people would, go to a restaurant with a mask on, sit at the table, and then take the mask off. And from a public health perspective, this is what we want to train our people to do. And we want, with a straight face, to look at them and say, that's safe. When Omicron came out, the R naught was so high, there was statistically no difference between the cloth mask and unmasked. You had to be at N95 land before anything was there. And it's about time of exposure. And even if you're perfect, what if your wife's not perfect? What if your kids are not perfect? They're not going to be. And they come home. So what are you going to do? Live like isolated and hide from everybody and live in a bubble? Never hug anybody, never touch anybody? The Canada public health authorities at the all-time high, they were making a recommendation to have sex with a mask on. They seriously recommended this. Look it up. And why would anybody ever trust you again once you go down this road? I can't believe any data I see. I believe science that's written outside of the United States, like the RNA stuck in your blood for more than 28 days. That study was done in Denmark. I look at it, I say, that's got to be credible because it's not touched by this toxicity of the NIH or these others. And it's sad because there's good research being done. There's good scientists being done. There's not evil people floating around everywhere you look. There's not a conspiracy floating around everywhere you look. The healthcare system, the vast majority of people wear the lab coat. The vast majority of people in the system are here to help. But the system is not here to help. That's the problem. That's the difference. The system is here to control. The system is here to make money. The system is here to maintain a status quo that really doesn't care if you're healthy or sick. And we spend almost $3 trillion a year for the privilege of maintaining a system like that. And now we've crossed lines where we don't even have to follow the scientific guidelines and protocols that were supposed to be there to protect everybody, because when we didn't follow them, they caused horrific problems during the charlatan age of medicine. Wasn't too long ago that traveling salesmen go around, tell you they have a cure for cancer, and they give you a little vial of water that's got radium in it or uranium in it. Wasn't too long ago they'd give you a cure for morning sickness that had cocaine and heroin. Wasn't too long ago. There's still people walking around whose grandparents, that was the standard cure-all. And we created the FDA, we created these institutions to protect us from these horrible things in charlatanism. But now that ecosystem's been weaponized in a way where any dissent from whatever orthodoxy is proposed, you're evil, take your medical license, sit down and shut up. And it hurts all of us. My wife snoring wakes me up. We got a cure for that, Rick. Oh, yeah. Let me show you a little something. Let's cure your wife right there. Talk about curative stuff. Yeah. The weirdest fucking thing ever, but you're going to put it in her mouth. Here we go. The Excite OSA. So that's actually a really cool device. We've been testing it out. Every person so far, anecdotal until we do a proper study, but this is a clinical trial. How it works is it's this little device you put in your mouth for 15 minutes, and it electrically stimulates your tongue, and it changes the muscular composition of the tongue so that the muscles have more durability and they basically stay stiffer longer. So it actually treats sleep apnea. And a lot of people who use this after 90 to 120 days, their sleep apnea goes down substantially. But more importantly, almost everybody who uses this who snores, the snoring goes away. So Excite OSA. I think in the United States, you need a prescription for it. You can buy it in Europe without one. But talk to your doctor about Excite OSA. How about that? And you just put it in the morning, 15 minutes, kind of shocks your tongue a little bit. It's mildly uncomfortable. There's different settings that you go through, and it's like less than $1,000. Yeah, exactly. Curative, right? Not a CPAP mask that you have to wear forever. Cure the problem. Oh, yeah. A couple of years ago, you showed us what looked like an Xbox dev unit. You said the post, guess what it was? Big news for Cardano. I think that was a stake pool that Marcus Guffler created. You're talking about the ones we brought to Miami? You put that in her mouth and stay stiff for longer. Sounds like a solid plan, brah. No, you need to use Gainswave for that. That's a different medical device. This does the sleep apnea. Has Charles denounced white supremacy yet? God damn, that's a woke question. If not, why not? Any form of racial supremacy is wrong, including white supremacy. I believe that we all are equal. Some people aren't more equal than other people. Sorry, we don't get to live in Animal Farm. Nobody should be able to make an argument of superiority based upon the color of their skin. 10 years ago, that used to be a perfectly fine answer. But now, unfortunately, you woke people don't accept that one, do you? Ugh. He changed the Black Hawk to a White Hawk. We're going to Elton John this whole thing up. Oh. Oh, man. I just gave you guys an Ethiopia update. You weren't paying attention there, man. Million people by the end of 2023. It's pretty sad. Sorry that you can't comprehend the words coming out of my mouth. Have you seen the South Park royal family of Canada? I think they're planning on suing. Just take a moment and think about the lived experience of Prince Harry and Meghan. I couldn't really care. I don't really care too much about the royal family. We have so many damn employees in the UK that it does come up a lot. They say, "What do you think about Harry and William and Charles?" And I say, "You guys don't understand. We had a war a while ago so that the people in the United States don't have to care about the royal family in the UK. We won that war. If we lost it, we'd have to care a lot." You got this kid that grows up in the upper 0.00001%. Now, I grew up in a somewhat privileged background. My dad's a doctor. I mean, we weren't millionaires or anything like that. Drove Ford Tauruses and Chevy Malibus and lived in a 3,000 square foot home. So I didn't really want for a lot. Not like I, go into a little school with a lunch pail and all I can have is oats or something. And I have to like steal food. I wasn't a street urchin, but on the other side of it, by no means fancy dancy. Started at Front Range Community College and then went to Metro, then went to CU Boulder. And, I had the lived experience that a lot of people in the upper middle class do. Now, obviously, I built a big life. I became a self-made billionaire and, I have things that only the royal family would have or other people in that income bracket. Great. Harry was born into that. He didn't earn a goddamn thing his whole life. Now, yeah, he served his country and his country's military. And, he's done a few things to try to prove that he's a guy. But then he has the audacity to go and say, "I've been treated so unfairly by this institution that's been around for 2,000 years. And they're just so mean to me because I married a woman that wants to make the entire institution all about her. And please respect our privacy by us writing a book about it and doing interviews and a Netflix documentary." If they really wanted privacy, I tell you what, Meghan and Harry, why don't you come out to Wyoming? And I'll get you a nice ranch. We'll go talk to Governor Gordon. We'll have a nice private meal. And he'll tell you all the different areas to go buy. So I think Kanye's moving out and he's going to have 10,000 acres available. And you know what? On my ranch in Wheatland, if I don't want to see a person, I don't see a person for 3 days. Media can't get out there. Nobody knows where exactly I'm at any given period of time. There's plenty of places, Wyoming, Montana, Texas, where we can put you where no one's ever going to see you. No one's going to know anything about you. And case in point, Jeffree Star is like a gigantic, flamboyant, just beacon, okay? Drives a fucking pink Rolls Royce with gold guns and covered in tattoos. And it's Jeffree Star. Google him. And he lives in Wyoming and has white albino yaks. And despite that, I have yet to run into Jeffree Star. Think about that. Only 500,000 people in the state, person as flamboyant and recognizable as that. And I still have yet to run into him. Why? Because it's a place you go when you don't want to be found. It's a place you go when you value your privacy. It's a place you go when you don't want to be seen. So what they were doing in South Park is they were pointing out that there was a hypocrisy here between the statements and the reality of the actions. And whenever you have a hypocrisy between what you say and what you actually do, you are open to criticism and comedy and satire. It's just that simple. And you take it. You have to take it. Everybody who's sufficiently famous who does something like this, they're going to be trashed by South Park because that is the point of South Park. They point out the absurdity and the parodies because it's real comedy, and that's the point of comedy, is to remind people of these things. The very fact they're threatening to sue shows you how far gone they are and only further damages the reputation. It's not easy being in a family. I fully appreciate that. My mom grew up in an Italian Catholic family. She's got 5 brothers and a sister, and I think they've made an art form out of fighting with each other. It's a tough Italian family. Thanksgivings and Christmases can be difficult at times, and rivalries form and these things. I fully appreciate there's a lot of conflict. And there's a lot of justified anger. Oh, they said this and they did this and they never loved me enough. And what about this and this divorce? Yeah, well, plenty of people all throughout life go through horrible situations, domestic violence, rape, all kinds of things. To make it so much about them and their circumstances and say ours was so unique, we now need to put it on front page story. Oh, the family's mildly racist. Oh, the family's doing this, the family's doing that. Okay, great. By the way, you're rich. By the way, you're a prince. By the way, you're directly connected to some of the most powerful humans in the world. And for the rest of your life, you're going to live a life of privilege. Almost everybody who goes through those horrible circumstances, they grow up in poor families. They grow up in very rough jurisdictions. They grow up in places where it's not safe to go outside. They grow up in places where they have to worry about basic things like, will we be able to pay the power bill? Will we be able to keep the water running in the house? Where am I going to go to eat tomorrow? How am I going to pay rent? That's their lived experience. Oh, by the way, they also have the domestic violence and the rape, and they have the murder, and they have the drug use, and they have all kinds of abusive situations in addition to those problems. So why is your lived experience so much worse than theirs? Oh, it's not? Then why do we care? Oh, we care because you're famous, and it's a scandal. And people love watching rich, powerful people stumble a little bit. They love getting to know the gossip. And you're taking advantage of the fact that people like being voyeurs to the rich and famous and powerful to make money and continue making yourselves relevant. It's just sad, and it's sad that it's been brought into our country, and it's sad that people reward this type of behavior, this shameful voyeurism. I guess I'm a bit sensitive to it because it was done with the early days of Ethereum. We were a bunch of kids. I was 25 years old. Vitalik was 19 years old. We had very limited experience in any of these things. And we were just basically thrust into a global role with hundreds of people, mostly sharks, some of which are now in prison, some of which are now under government investigations, some of which who ran actual scams, some of which who are dead. And we had to somehow survive with no guidelines, no book, no money. And we did our best. We didn't always do it right, but we tried our best and turned out to be okay for everybody. 18 million turned into a $200 billion ecosystem. Pretty good. And what journalists did is they injected themselves into this process, and they took the drama of the week, the claims of the week, and they turned them into books, which will be turned into movies. And they say that's reality, and these are these people. And the consequences are that Gavin and Joe and myself and others, we just have to live with people thinking that's who we are every day. Now, all the other stuff that we've done in our lives, well, that doesn't matter, does it? No, because it doesn't fit the narrative. So I'm a little sensitive to it, and I see what they're trying to do and trying to adjust the narrative in certain different ways. I tell you, Harry, if you really want to be productive, why don't you go and really pick on Prince Andrew and dig into the Epstein thing? Because I'm pretty sure you probably know the story there. And there's some secrets there, and you really can dig deep to that. That would be good because you're saving children who have been molested. But instead, you want to talk about how they were mean to you and made you feel like a spare. Oh, no. Well, it's like the meme with Ed Harris. No, it's not Ed Harris. It's the other Ed wiping his tears with money on his face. I'm sorry. I just don't have a lot of sympathy for it. And I'm glad that South Park is pointing this crap out. When are you coming back to Zanzibar? Well, World Mobile's got the blimps up, the aerostats. It'd be nice to come when they've completely covered the whole island. We're at 25,000 people, and I hope they get to 2 million soon enough. Well, there we go. Your mother is adorable. Your dad is too. Your brother is the best. Well, I appreciate that, Lori. I suspect you live in Gillette if you know them, and they are the best. Will they ever finish I-25? I-25 is like a mindfulness exercise. It's like there is no beginning, there is no end. It is an open road that sits as a circle upon the surface of a disk. For when you are on the circle, you shall truly know the magic that it is. And we have Ross Kelvin. Definitely need to know about CNN. Well, Ross, we talked about it earlier today. Have you watched Yellowstone? I'm fucking living Yellowstone. I even just bought an incinerator on my ranch. And when they delivered it, they said, you need to name it. I said, well, we'll name it Integrity. And so I have this giant incinerator that could burn pretty much anything. And so now the tagline for Twin Pine is, welcome to Hoskinson Ranch, where you'll find integrity, or integrity will find you. Ever been in a fist fight? Yeah, I have been, and I got my ass kicked, and I deserved it. There's something in life that I've learned is that sometimes you need to get your ass kicked. What do you need the incinerator for? So every year we have a few bison that die, and horses, whatever, large animals will die. And so you use the incinerator to take care of that. You also burn garbage. And the one I bought sequesters all the carbon. Where will you go when the volcano blows? If you're referring to the one in Wyoming, that's the Yellowstone supervolcano. Such an eruption would destroy all life on Earth, which means that I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to strip naked, just hold my arms out and let the pyroclastic cloud absorb me. This guy, this guy, this guy. You just had to go for it, didn't you? Just fucking had to go for it. Okay, you win the internet today, you son of a bitch. No. Okay, Brian. Get your ass kicked in a fist fight. Yeah, maybe alcohol, but we both know it was over a woman. Come on now. What are your thoughts on the Skinwalker Ranch? Well, my ranch is haunted. They say, oh, Skinwalker, paranormal activity. There's tons of fucking paranormal activity on my ranch. Why burn the bison, not let them be reintroduced in the ecosystem? If they die of anthrax or black leg or some other plague, it's actually a contaminated corpse, and you have to take care of it. Why not bury them and plant trees? Okay. You can tell who's a rancher and who's not a rancher. 3,000 pounds, very large, and it's the wintertime, and the ground is frozen. Think it through. 6 foot deep, do some calculations. You can do it. You can get a backhoe out there if you really wanted to. No, you just incinerate them. Save the skull, though. See, back there. Stoners Club, I want to answer your question, but I'm not gonna. I'm not gonna. When Hydra, every month we're working on it, guys. Let me show you some. Let me show you some right here. Yeah. Hydra. Oh, boom. Okay, let me bring this shit up right here. And I believe this is the repo. Yeah, there we go. This repo. All right. Wow. We've done this a lot today. Here is the Hydra repository, IOHK Hydra. Okay. And if you actually take a look at projects, here's the roadmap. You can literally see real time what's going on with Hydra. Why ask me? It's here. So this is where we're at. And this is what 1.0 is all about in post 1.0. And you can see things that are labeled red and green and amber. And what's nice about this being an open source project is you actually can take a look at all the contributions. And so there are 26 contributors currently working. Only a few are from IO. They're actually contributors all across the world. And it's crunching the data. Hang tight. We're all waiting. Suspense. Bated breath. Let me reload the page. There we go. You can see that's Sebastian and Arnaud, and that's Matthias from the Cardano Foundation. And these are all different people making various contributions to the code base. And you can read about where we're at and the types of features we've achieved. It's rainbowed. And then later on, various different things that are happening. It's really moving along, and it's a great open source program. It's fairly low cost, and they're just making wonderful iterative progress, and it's publicly made. Matthias is awesome. Yeah, fuck yeah, man. Go M Labs. Exactly. They're contributing as well. Why do NVIDIA drivers suck so bad on Linux? Yeah, I got to give you that. That's true. Were you raised on a ranch? No, I was raised actually in Hawaii. Hawaii. Have you watched Snatch? Yeah. Beware a man who owns a pig farm. Yeah, it's a good movie. Very good movie. Movie. Come on, guys. Give me some good questions here. We're running out of steam. Something good, something sexy. Can we have a note on a Raspberry Pi? I do believe there are still some stake pool operators that do that. Is that a Jordan Peterson lobster? No, sir. This is a different kind of lobster. This is a lobster. His name is Logan. He's very dear and precious to me. He's under 24/7 guard in a very secure facility. Andrew Tate, poser. He's a misogynist asshole poser. You got these guys out there who are like, I'm so big. Let me tell you how to treat women, how what to do. And it's like, okay. So you were pretty good at beating people up. That's who you are. Great. And you're so rich and so powerful. You live in a shithole in Romania. Gotcha. Yeah, but I'm woke. I'm red pilled, man. I'm so red pilled. I've met a lot of red pilled people, and I've met people that are real men. You're not one of them. I got Green Berets on my security detail. I got all kinds of people that are quiet professionals who have been through things very few humans could endure and survive. And they don't make a deal out of it and don't talk about it. They just do their job. And they have a quiet confidence about them. You see, that's how you know somebody's a real person or not. There's a lot of people out in the world, they just love talking, and they tell you how great they are and what they've achieved and what they've accomplished, and they're almost looking for validation from you. The really dangerous people in life, the people you got to watch out for, the people that are going to kick your ass in business, in life, are the people, they don't talk about it. They just look at you with a little smile on their face, and you know there's a lot of depth there, and they're not going to show their hands. And if you carry that level of quiet professionalism, I wish I did, and into every aspect of your life, odds are that you get along very well. It doesn't mean you can't talk about things you've done, but it means that you do it when there's a point, purpose, or a context behind it that's appropriate. It's a teachable moment. It's a story to inspire. It's something to mentor or to lighten a current situation, to show some vulnerability so that you can build trust and rapport. And then you can actually then, with that trust, leverage a relationship. But it's not there to show your status above someone else. And the problem with guys like Tate is they create an industry around taking vulnerable people who are just not where they need to be in life and trying to broadcast this false machismo and confidence. You also see it with Dan Bilzerian. And they say, oh, look at us, look how great we are, look at all the things we've accomplished, look at all the things we've done. Okay. And do you really want to emulate that lifestyle? No. But the fantasy of it is what attracts people, and it allows them to build a fan base, and they come through. But there's no character building there. There's no integrity building there. There's no calmness and peace there. There's no inner power there. The strongest people I've met, you can't kill them. You can destroy their bodies, but they're undefeatable. They're absolutely indestructible people. You can take everything from them. You can put them in a death camp. You can torture them. They'll come out a year later and completely rebuild everything from the ground up. That kind of attitude, that mentality, that stoicism, that internal integrity, that calm confidence and self-assuredness, that's the kind of stuff that's rare. And there's no silver bullet for it. We were handed the techniques to do these things from people who died not yesterday, but thousands of years ago, like Seneca and Marcus Aurelius. And they've been refined and grown and matured, and they've been integrated into various faith traditions. But their tools are there. The mindfulness, the Stoic practices, the logotherapy is a good modernization of a lot of these techniques. That's what Viktor Frankl developed. No coincidence he developed it after leaving a concentration camp. They killed his wife and kids, and he didn't let them break them, and he took that with him. But it's hard. It takes years, and you're not compensated for it, and it's not incentivized, and society doesn't take care of you. Instead, they criticize you. And what you'll notice is you're on the right track when the media says you're on the wrong track. So if you go to any of these woke shops and you Google, stoicism, they'll say, oh, it's a dead philosophy made by slaves 2,000 years ago to know their place. Like, bingo. They hate it because they're scared of it. Because if people were stoic, there would be zero need for the garbage philosophy they're cramming on society. That's the true red pill right there. And that's what, when I started adopting that, gave me so much success in life. And it gives me the ability to get out there into the arena. And every time I've slipped and I've lashed out at people, it's really never helped me, ever. If I was stoic about the XRP thing, we'd still all be friends. I wasn't. I took it personally. I shouldn't have. It is what it is. It's a lesson, and you just move forward. Tate is the antithesis, as is Bilzerian or any of these others, of that philosophy. They're not connected to it, and they never truly will grow beyond a very rudimentary level in society. The other thing is, I believe men and women are partners. We're interdependent with each other, and we have to work together and get along. And this concept of one being above the other in any direction is incredibly damaging. This fourth wave feminism or this traditionalist women should be in the kitchen thing, they're both wrong. They're partners, and they're interdependent, and they have to work together. And if you just learn how to communicate, this John Gottman talks a lot about this whole idea of a tune, where you have this idea of a bid, the minimum unit of human communication, and you're aware that they exist, and you turn towards them and you're tolerant of them and you understand where people are coming from and you don't get defensive about it and you have empathy for their position. Uh, if we had that capacity, almost always we'd actually have good communication, good trust, and good relationships with each other. If we focused on that, everybody would just really get along, except for the crazy people they have something wrong, like they're psychopaths and sociopaths. That's another skill set to develop, how to set boundaries. Once you've made the effort to communicate well with people and you live a life of integrity and you have that calm professionalism and confidence in that life, then the people you invite into your life, you set boundaries with them and you see if they respect them or they don't. If they don't respect the boundaries, then you get rid of them. You kick them out of your life. If they do respect the boundaries, then you'll notice that over time, everybody is very happy. And it can just be as simple as I see that person at the bar every week, to as complicated as we went to Paraguay together and got into a lot of trouble and nearly died, and, have a hell of a story to tell. It's a very wide range, but they're built on the same foundations. You notice people like Tate and Bilzerian, they don't do that. They show you the Lamborghini or the Bugatti. They show you the private jet, which, by the way, they don't own. I do. But I don't take pictures of it, post them on Twitter. They show you all the women that they rent out and say, oh, look how happy I am. No, they don't like you. They're not there. Come on now. And they say, well, you can be like me. Oh, God, no. Who would want to go down that road? Yeah. Anyway, so that's what I think about COVID, about medicine, about the woke stuff, stoicism, about the posers, the real people. You want to know who's real? Lex Friedman is real. He's one of the realest guys I've ever met in my life. He is an intellectually curious person, and he lives it with his heart on his sleeve and legitimately just wants to listen to people and talk to people and connect with people and understand the world around him without judgment and truly understand why people behave the way that they behave and do the things the way they do. He has a PhD in artificial intelligence. You'd never know it. He taught at MIT. You'd never know it. He's a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and he's a super tough guy. You'd never know it because it's not what drives him. Those are fun things he did, and they're part of his curiosity and his pursuit of internal perfection, but they were enablers for him to carry out his life mission. All you'd really know about him is he says, the following is a podcast with. That's the real guy. And if a lot more people were like that, the world would be a much better place because we'd all understand each other. At the end of the day, all of you listening, if you pull your wealth out, your prestige out, your credentials out, the things you've accomplished in life, I'd argue the most fundamental things you want are to be listened to, loved, and cared about by somebody and yourself. And oftentimes, almost all the things we start accumulating in life, we do so as band-aids because there's the absence of those things. It's why some of the happiest people in the world, and I've met them, have nothing. I was in Ethiopia years ago, and I visited a coffee plantation outside of Addis Ababa, and I saw this smallholder farmer and his wife and his 4 kids, and they were just all smiles. They lived on less than a hectare of land, probably made less than $5 a day when you translate everything out, maybe even 3. I've never seen such happy people. Life is good. Why? Because they had love, and they cared about each other and took care of each other. And they had built a good life. They don't need a Lamborghini to be happy. Anyway, as Paul Harvey would say, now you know the rest of the story. Thank you so much for listening. It's always good to do these AMAs. I'm sorry I haven't been able to do them recently, but it's good to be back. We're going to have a fun 2023. Cheers.